Hello, we are in a sixth line day. We've reached the top of hexagram 30, the clinging fire, the gate of recognition of feelings. And the sixth line here is called enforcement. It's very difficult to handle feelings in your life unless you can get to grips with the way the emotional system works. And you can really have the patience to wait out the wave. Otherwise, any of these lines can express really chaotically. This is the whole thing about the emotional system, really, is that it can have such a profound clarity, it can have such a profound effect. And yet, for most of us and most human beings, it's actually a chaotic process. It's one in which we are constantly slapped around in the emotional wave. It's the resignation that we learned about in the third line phase, the resignation that things are what they are, and whether or not you can achieve the experience out of your feelings is something that's entirely determined by other forces far beyond your control. When we get to the sixth line, as always, it takes the big view. We're looking over the whole of the abstract process. And we're seeing that the only feeling that is really worth holding on to is the feeling that can lead to a valuable experience for the collective, bearing in mind that the very word valuable is relative. In our collective experience, we always need those who will go out and demonstrate to us what it's like to go through things, to walk across the frozen fields of the north, or to ride a balloon around the world, whatever it happens to be, but just to get it done. Nobody's done it, let's go do it. Let's have that experience to see what it's all about, and then we'll share that experience. So we come to the roof of the house, the line of transition. And when we look at mirror gates, we can sometimes find some interesting links. And here, there's a funny one. The 18:6 over in the splenic center is Buddhahood. It's the perfected form, it's the spoiled one. The 36 is not about working on what has been spoiled, but it is the spoiled one all the same. But here it's the emotionally spoiled one. They only want the best experiences. They only want the thrill of the emotional high. This is what is so important to them. In the lifetime learning, the discipline to maintain right action. And the exaltation, the assertiveness to purge the inferior while accepting to lead the weak. The strength to eliminate negative feelings. And the only way in which you can understand the weak in this context, they are those who cannot survive the power of the emotional system and its feelings in order to get to its experience, because the clinging fire, it can trap you in an obsessive place where you can't get out, and where you feel like not being able to get out is destructive to your life. And of course, that's not true. It's true if you're living out the not self, but it's not true if you're living out your own nature. And this negative feeling is a feeling that you can assume can never be actualized. And of course, you only feel that way about that negative feeling when you go down in your wave. But when you come back up, you think, huh, maybe that wasn't a negative feeling after all. And you could have some confusion around that. So the real negative feeling that is to be eliminated is the experience that you want, that you recognize both when you're up and down, that you're not going to get, that you eliminate yourself from the obsessive field. And then you don't get caught up in the burning of your emotional wave. And that's the key with the whole emotional wave. It's the recognizing what's going on when you're up, what's going on when you're down. How does that feel? What's that particular experience like? Are you enjoying it when you're up as well as when you're down, or vice versa? If it's all there, then maybe it's the correct experience for you, regardless of where you are in your wave. The 30 in the line 6 doesn't want to have negative feelings. They're looking for the feel good in life. They hope that somebody is going to bring it to them. And because of that, these are some of the cleverest people in knowing exactly who to yearn for. They're very good at this. They are good at looking at exactly for that energy that's going to give them that kind of life. Same is true for the 18-6 on the other side, finding someone who will spoil them. This is one of the gifts of these 6 lines. The 30 here, it's someone who is going to spoil them emotionally. And in the detriment, an inherent peacefulness that is all too often will abide the presence of inferior forces, a lack of strength in eliminating negative feelings. So still grasping to the hope, the hope that you may be able to get the experience, no matter how brutal it's been, in not being able to achieve that experience. And remember, the 6th line is going to be sitting up there in a very particular way. It's going to be looking down on the world of feelings. And for the 30 to finally get involved, to find the focus for its own feelings, for experience, that's a major step in its process. And the only way that it does that in terms of the wheel is that that feeling must be for the spirit. In other words, the experience itself that is sought, whether you get to it or not, that feeling is justified if the potential is awakening the spirit in the 55th gate. Both the exaltation and the detriment talk about dealing with inferior forces, and every hexagram when you get to the roof is looking to the next hexagram. So in this case, of course, we're looking to the 55-1, which is all about finding the spirit through cooperation with superior forces. The experiential path can seem like it can be full of all kinds of inferior forces. This is what you learn along the experiential way. What works, what doesn't, who can do it, who can't, where the progress is, where the progress isn't. The deepest thing that the 30 in the line 6 is looking for is the real superior force. It's interested in people. And that is very unusual for a 6th line. This is a collective circuit. It's not personal. It tends to be the kind of relationships that are simply for the experience themselves. And yet the 6th line is saying, I know all that. And I want more. I want the superior experience. I want a superior person in my life, because then I know that I have someone I can share it with, have to share it with someone. So the grounding is coming from the 29 in the 6th line, of course, and it is called confusion. And we have heard about the confusion that the 6th line in the 30 can feel when it is in its emotional wave, when it doesn't know whether the feeling is negative and it's going through its process. Confusion is also the name of gate 64, the abstract collective gate, part of this same stream up in the head center. Experiences can be very confusing. Feelings can be very confusing. This is the collective with its keynote of sharing, and through genetic continuity. Maybe everyone is just sharing their confusion. So Mercury is moving into gate 37 today. 37 is tribal and it is in the solar plexus, so it's emotional still. It's the gate of the mouse. The tribe must be fed. We know this from the 19, the 49. We've talked about it in the 30. The other end of the channel is the 40. This is the stomach. A happy community is one with a full stomach. And the dining table used to be of primary importance when within the tribe. Oh, it still is in some places, of course, but it was where the bargains were made. Many courtships take place over a meal. It can also be a place of deep emotionality when someone eats their toast too loudly or puts the butter knife into the marmalade. The moon is still in gate 32, the gate of duration. At 1656, it moves into gate 50, and then at 422 into gate 28, which is the completion of the lunar cycle through the splenic gates. Gate 50 is the tribal gate of laws. It's called the cauldron, and it is part of the defense circuit, linking to the channel of mating on the other side of the sacral. And here in the channel of the custodian, we have the 27 along with the 50. So you create something on one side, and here on this side, you have the tools to keep that thing alive, to help it survive, teaching it the values that it needs in order to be a responsible tribal member. And it could be a new being, but it could also be a new project that you're bringing into the world. Has it got the values that are going to keep it and sustain it and make it a viable business or whatever it is? So then The themes of the 50 move into the 28, and we are looking for something to fight for. We're taking those values and laws and we're applying them to life, asking the question in this individual gate now, what fires me up? Do the values I hold make life worth living? What makes life worth living? So that's it. That's our exploration of gate 30. We move into gate 55 tomorrow. And until then, as always, I wish you well. I wish you love and joy, and go gently.